You won't believe which so-called superfood from the 1970s made more kids gag than anything else on the dinner table. It was served with love, praised for its health benefits, and yet, it turned every meal into a childhood standoff. Growing up in the 70s meant learning the fine art of negotiating with your mom over what you had to eat before you could leave the table. From mushy vegetables to mystery meat masquerading as steak, these weren't just meals. They were moments burned into memory. In this video, we're digging into the top 10 foods your mom tried to make you eat in the 1970s. If you ever hid lima beans under your napkin or prayed your dog liked liver, this one's for you. Number 1. Liver and onions. There was a certain smell that drifted from the kitchen and struck fear into the hearts of 1970s kids everywhere. That sharp, iron-rich scent meant one thing: liver and onions were on the menu. Mom swore by it. It's full of iron, it'll make you strong. But no amount of nutritional pep talk could distract from the rubbery texture and metallic taste. The onions didn't help, they just added a slippery sweetness to an already suspicious situation. Most of us tried every trick in the book, hiding tiny pieces under mashed potatoes, feeding it to the dog under the table, or holding our noses while taking a bite like it was medicine. One kid in our neighborhood even faked a loose tooth just to get out of chewing it. His mom made him eat the liver anyway. It's soft, you don't need teeth. It wasn't just a meal, it was a rite of passage. And if you managed to finish your plate without gagging, you felt like you earned a medal, or at least dessert. Number 2. Creamed spinach. Ah yes, creamed spinach, the dish that tried to hide its true identity under a blanket of white sauce. But kids weren't fooled. It wasn't creamy enough to be fun, and it was still spinach. The texture? Somewhere between baby food and something scooped out of a can. The color? A wilted green mess with streaks of beige. And the taste? Let's just say it lingered. Every kid faced the dreaded spinach showdown at least once. Maybe it was served next to meatloaf, quietly seeping into the mashed potatoes, or worse, heated in the microwave until it was lava hot on the outside and freezing cold in the middle. One kid on our block tried to hide a whole spoonful in his milk glass, thinking he'd outsmart the system, but the green blob floating at the top gave him away instantly, and he was sentenced to 2 more bites as punishment. Creamed spinach wasn't just food, it was a texture-based betrayal. Moms thought they were doing us a favor. We thought we were being punished for something we didn't remember doing. Number 3. Canned asparagus. There was something deeply unsettling about canned asparagus. It didn't crunch, it didn't snap, it flopped. A soggy olive green noodle that slid off your fork like it didn't want to be there either. Most moms didn't even try to jazz it up, just cracked the can, drained the juice, or didn't, and laid those limp stalks right next to your meatloaf or pork chop. No seasoning, no butter, just a stern look and a try it, you might like it. Spoiler, we didn't. I remember one dinner where my sister tried to bargain with my mom. I'll eat 2 pieces of canned asparagus if I don't have to take a bath. She got the bath and the asparagus. That's how serious moms were about their vegetables back then. No matter how you sliced it, canned asparagus was a lose-lose situation. It tasted like the inside of the can it came from, and it always left that weird green puddle on your plate. But somehow it kept showing up, like it had its own reserved seat at the table. Tuna noodle casserole. If there was one dish that screamed Wednesday night and mom's too tired to cook, it was tuna noodle casserole. Cream of mushroom soup, canned tuna, elbow noodles, and maybe some frozen peas if your mom was feeling fancy, all baked into one steaming beige blob. The smell hit you first. That warm, fishy cloud rising from the oven was like a warning signal. Kids could smell it from the driveway, and it smelled just like the school cafeteria, which was never a good sign. Some moms topped it with breadcrumbs, others crushed up potato chips to give it that crunchy surprise on top. But no matter the topping, it still felt like eating something that had already been chewed once. I'll never forget the time my friend tried to hide his casserole under the placemat. Thought he was a genius until the cat jumped up on the table and started licking it. Mom was not impressed. Tuna noodle casserole wasn't just a meal, it was an endurance test. You didn't eat it because you wanted to. You ate it because you were told there are starving kids who would love this. Number 5. Stewed tomatoes. Stewed tomatoes were the ultimate ambush food. They looked harmless sitting there, just a red puddle with chunks. But one bite in, and it was a mouthful of warm, acidic mush that left your tongue confused and your appetite gone. They weren't part of a salad, they weren't part of a sauce, they were just there, served in a bowl or slopped onto your plate like a red warning flare. Moms called them a nice side dish. Kids called them a mistake. I remember my cousin once described them as ketchup that gave up. He wasn't wrong, and God help you if they touched your bread, you'd end up with a soggy tomato sponge that no napkin could save. One night at dinner, my brother tried to swallow his portion whole without chewing. He nearly choked, and Mom still made him finish the rest. "You'll learn not to rush next time," she said. He never did. Stewed tomatoes didn't just ruin a meal, they had the power to ruin an entire Thursday. Number 6. Boiled Brussels sprouts. Back in the 70s, Brussels sprouts hadn't yet found their glow-up. There were no roasting pans, no balsamic glaze, just a pot of boiling water and a dream. What came out smelled like gym socks and tasted like betrayal. They were always served piping hot, rolling around your plate like little green grenades. The outer leaves peeled off like soggy paper, and the inside, pure, bitter mush. It didn't matter how much butter you added, they still tasted like punishment. I'll never forget my neighbor's birthday dinner. He cried actual tears when he saw Brussels sprouts on the table. His mom told him they were little cabbages, like that was supposed to make it better. It didn't. He ate too and asked if he could skip cake. That's the kind of emotional damage we're talking about. These sprouts didn't just offend your taste buds, they invaded the room. The smell alone traveled through walls, warning every kid within a 5-house radius, dinner tonight is going to be rough. Number 7. Salisbury steak, frozen TV dinner style. Back then, the words TV dinner sounded exciting. Your own tray, your own meal, and a seat right in front of the TV. But then came the letdown, Salisbury steak. It looked promising, brown, saucy, and sitting in its own little plastic compartment like royalty. But one bite in, and the illusion shattered. It wasn't steak. It was a mystery meat patty, rubbery and swimming in salty brown goo that didn't taste like beef, or anything found in nature. The mashed potatoes next to it were gluey, the corn was shriveled, and if you were really unlucky, the gravy had leaked into the dessert corner, creating a chocolate pudding meat sauce hybrid that haunted your dreams. I remember one night my cousin bragged that he loved Salisbury steak. Halfway through the tray, he gagged and blamed it on the texture. We never let him live it down. Salisbury steak wasn't just dinner, it was a culinary bait and switch, labeled as a treat, but really a lesson in managing expectations. Number 8. Cabbage rolls. Cabbage rolls always looked kind of cool, like little green burritos carefully tucked together in a casserole dish. But once you cut into one, the magic ended fast. Inside was a strange mix of ground beef, rice, and whatever spices Mom found in the cabinet that day, wrapped in boiled cabbage leaves and drowned in tomato sauce. The smell filled the house, a mix of sour veggie steam and seasoned meat that clung to your clothes like bad luck. Some kids tried to unroll them and just eat the middle. Others begged to eat just the cabbage so they could skip the filling. No strategy worked. It was an all-or-nothing deal. I'll never forget my uncle telling us they were just like egg rolls. Big mistake. My cousin took a huge bite expecting crispy crunch and sweet sauce, and instead got a face full of wet cabbage and disappointment. He spit it out right onto his plate and got sent to his room before dessert. Cabbage rolls were a meal you had to power through, a culinary guilt trip wrapped in leaves. Number 9. Lima beans. Lima beans had a way of showing up uninvited, like that distant cousin who never left the party. They weren't colorful, they weren't fun, and they definitely weren't tasty. Just pale green blobs that stared back at you like, go ahead, try us. Straight from the freezer bag, boiled until soft, and plopped onto your plate with zero ceremony. They had this dry, chalky texture that somehow managed to be both mushy and powdery at the same time, a mouthful of bland that stuck to your tongue like paste. I remember one night my friend tried to mix his lima beans into his mashed potatoes to mask the flavor. It worked, until he hit a cold bean in the middle of a bite and gagged in front of everyone. His dad said, "That's what you get for playing with your food." Lima beans weren't just a vegetable, they were a symbol of doing what you were told, even if you hated every bite. Number 10. Jell-O salad with vegetables. It sparkled, it jiggled, it looked like dessert, but this wasn't any ordinary Jell-O. No, this was Jell-O salad, the most deceptive dish to ever grace a 70s dinner table. You'd get excited at first, bright colors, a fun wobble, maybe even served in a fancy mold, but then you'd see it, shredded carrots, celery bits, or even green olives suspended like fossils in amber. What could have been a sweet treat turned into a confused science experiment. Mom swore it was refreshing and different. And it was different, in the worst way. You take a hopeful bite and instantly regret it. Sweet and savory collided in your mouth like a culinary car crash. I once saw a kid at a church potluck load his plate with what he thought was cherry Jell-O. He took a giant bite and came face to face with a surprise chunk of pickle. He didn't cry, but his eyes said enough. Jell-O salad wasn't food. It was a trap. A beautiful, wiggly, vegetable-filled trap. Those dinner table battles may be behind us, but the memories, they stick around, just like the smell of boiled Brussels sprouts. So now it's your turn. Which one of these foods brought back the strongest memories for you? Do you still eat any of them today? Or is there one you wouldn't serve to your worst enemy, even as a joke? Drop your stories in the comments. We know you've got some. And if you survived the era of Jell-O salads with veggies, You've earned the right to share.